And hello, Russell. Are you there?
Hey, yeah, I'm here.
Very good. Well, welcome to XP Video Game School. We are very grateful to have you here.
Yeah,
We
thanks so much for
really
for inviting me. Appreciate it.
thank you. We really appreciate that you take this time and everything you have done to make this possible. Thank you very much for joining us. And well, we are very excited to start. So please go ahead.
Cool, yeah. Just screen share. I should have my webcam on too, or what's the preference?
You can use webcam right now because we have space like for like fi- uh,
Okay,
five more persons or something like that.
cool. Hello, this is me. I'll also just screen share here my slide deck I put together. Um, so yeah, I'm really happy you guys are having me. Um, I put this presentation together the past week or so. I'm kind of hitting a lot of general points with it that I've learned and just experiences in the industry so far. Um, so yeah, this is just working as a concept artist, and I'll start here. Um, so, uh, just a little introduction. I'm Russell Jones. I live in Vancouver, Canada, and I work at Adam Hawk as a lead concept artist now. I just got promoted like a day or two ago. This is some of my work. Um, Very into dark fantasy and horror type of work. Um, and then a little introduction, like what outsourced studio is. Um, so the job title, concept artist at an outsourced studio, is a bit of a blanket term. You might think like, oh, I'm going to be doing purely concept and sketching and iteration, but you'll likely be doing a little bit of everything, from concept, storyboard, making assets, promotional materials like key art. 2D cinematics are pretty popular as well, and illustration. It's a very good environment to learn and grow in. Um, so you're like I was saying, you're constantly having to touch a lot of projects, and um, there's new challenges all the time. Um, it's definitely a little tricky at first, but if you really embrace it and use it as a growing opportunity, it's a pretty great space. And kind of before all that, um, foundations are super important. So, things like perspective, anatomy, form, composition, color theory. Strong foundations are what allow us to visually communicate our ideas unimpeded. We don't want to be fighting the technical side of art while we're focusing on creating. And this is all super important because, designing and coming up with things is pretty difficult. Um, there's some creative challenges that you'll run into that it takes like all your brain energy, and you don't want to be fighting foundations at the same time that you're trying to focus on designing and making interesting, engaging things. This is kind of a continuation. Even after you have your foundations down, you kind of constantly need to be working on your craft. So whether it's life studies, setting up objects under a lamp on your desk, or going to figure drawing, master studies are great, photo studies. You kind of constantly need to be, um, working on the hard stuff, and it's not always fun, but you got to find ways to make it fun. It's very much like eating your veggies. You got to eat your greens to kind of keep strong. My old art lead told me that, and it kind of stuck with me. Growth mindset. Before we really can improve, we need to let go of our egos. Aim to have a lifelong growth focused mindset. Be open minded to critique and learn all that you can. It's important to search for feedback from your peers as well. You don't have to apply everything, but consider all feedback you are given. Um, the people that you come up with and learn with. Um, it's important to hear what they have to say too about your work, and you don't. Yeah, don't feel obligated to apply everything that people tell you, but you at least want to consider it, um, and filter, maybe there's something there that you like, maybe there's things you don't like. It's up to you to filter that. And this is a quote I really like. I'm not super familiar with this guy. I think he's a drummer, but he has this quote where he goes, "I'm a student of the drums, and I'm also a teacher of the drums too." And that really speaks to me as far as having um, a lifelong passion for growth and learning. Even if you're teaching and helping others, you're still a student for life. There's just so much to learn, and I think it's good to embrace that. Working hard versus working hard and smart. You need to work hard to become a professional artist, but you also need to work smart. For example, you can work hard, grind out 1,000 studies, and progress minimally. Every study you do needs to be actively engaging. You need to think about what it is you're doing and why. A study is looking for an answer that you have a question to. And I think a lot of us fall into this trap. I know I did when I was early on. I just like, oh, if I draw more and I work really hard, I'll get somewhere. And I wasn't really thinking about what I was doing. And it makes it more difficult because you do need to be, mentally engaged and thinking throughout the process, like, what am I doing here? Why am I putting down these marks or these brush strokes? And because if you're not, you're kind of just wasting your time in a way. You need to be engaged and know what you're doing at all times. So design principles, um, these kind of come after the foundations when we're starting to get more into creating. So things like big, medium, small, contrast, which I think big, medium, small you can include within contrast, but it also encompasses things like simple versus complex, straight versus curved, light versus dark, detail versus rest, rule of three, leading lines, and these examples from Paul Richards' autodestruct.com. It's a really great resource for, he's got some really great design lectures on there, and it's all free. It's a very good resource. Definitely recommend you check it out. This is one that I've kind of noticed. So the magic number 3. 3 is uneven and simple. It avoids halves, which we typically want to avoid. And there's a few principles I've noticed that it works well with. So when I'm ideating, giving something 3 keywords is usually ideal. It's nice and simple, but gives us variety. And you can give each one of those keywords its own ratio. So here I have barbarian, 60%, angry, 30%, and then gentle, 10%. And you might think, well, gentle is that's kind of an interesting keyword to have with barbarian and angry. And it's usually nice to have something that contrasts. So you could think of split complementary color schemes where you have the color wheel and maybe like a yellow and a green, and then one opposing color on the opposite side of the scale, maybe some kind of purple. It just adds a little bit of spice and contrast. And just with these 3 words, you could get so many variations just from flipping the percentages. So we could say, okay, maybe he's 30% gentle and 10% angry, or any other combination. It'll create new designs. And you can do the same thing with references as well. I like to have 3 key references, and you can change how much each influences your design. And then things like 3 colors in a design is usually nice. Big, medium, small fits into 3. Rule of thirds. It's just something I noticed while I've been working. It's like I keep coming back to the number 3, and I like those little snappy mottos or kind of rule sets that apply to multiple things. And there's our magic 3 ball. So intuition and individuality. Principles are great. They give us a solid structure to work from and refer back to when we run into problems, but they can also be mechanical, and if we were to all follow them one to one, we'd have a whole lot of similar looking art. Building your intuition is more personal. It's the amalgamation of who you are, what you like, what you've learned, and your experiences. It's feeling through an image and following your gut with your creative decision making. The more you absorb art, build your likes and dislikes, the more your intuition will speak to you. It will take time to develop a strong intuition, however, so you likely need to actively lean on principles until then. And this is something I feel like people don't talk about enough is building your intuition, because it is really what makes us all. I mean, we're all already unique individuals with our own, lives and inspirations and things we enjoy. And I feel like intuition is the thing that sets you apart from other people. Because if we were all to follow there's design principles one to one, you know, there wouldn't be as much interesting stuff out there. I feel like it's the things that we do differently that I guess makes everything interesting. I guess a comparison for me would be, ArtStation front page. I feel like everything there feels kind of the same because everybody's looking at the front page and being like, oh, I want to do art like that. And yeah, it just gets very, very boring. So I tend to like to look at things that are outside of that realm. Some things I've learned on the job. So clarity, malleability, and versatility be the change you want to see. Keep it fresh. Know your time, work efficiently. Example timeline I'll cover. Reference research and having a plan. And cast the net wide. So I'll go through each of those. So clarity. When working as an outsourcer, you won't always have the luxury of meeting with the client to explain your work. Your art needs to clearly speak for itself. You don't want to leave room for interpretation. It will lead to disappointment. For example, the client can imagine a next set of steps, and you're imagining another set of steps. So, for this example here, it's a little too rough and loose, and what I'm thinking I'm going to do with it could be completely different from what any of you think is going to be the next step. It's too messy. It leaves too much open for interpretation. And with this sketch here, it's pretty clearly defined. It's like, okay, yeah, he's wearing pants, has a patch on it. He has like these weird weapon hand things, and yeah, there's just a lot more clarity. I don't think there'd be much confusion on where this is going for the next steps. And this is fine if you're doing it for yourself, but I wouldn't ever send this to a client because yeah, it's just they're not going to be sure where it's going to go. But yeah, and good rule of thumb is simple yet characteristic. That's something that Steve Houston said in his figure drawing courses, and I think it's a good rule of thumb. Just try to draw everything as simple as possible, but as characteristic of the thing that you can get. So yeah, if you draw an arm or something, you don't have to get like every little bump and notch within that arm. You can simplify it, and just try to push like the major forms that you see and feel in there. So malleability and versatility. The more that you're able to do, the more work opportunities will open up to you. In outsourcing, it's incredibly important because new projects are always coming through the pipeline. My example image here only covers genre and style, but it also should include 3D tools. Having these will be a huge benefit to you and your opportunities. And yeah, so artist one here, they're only interested and can only do semi-real artwork and steampunk genre, and that's going to really limit them just in terms of growth and work opportunities. I think artist 2 is more likely to have more job opportunities, and even more so if they have, like Blender or Maya or Unreal Engine under their belt as well. It goes a long way. And you can't do everything, or you don't have the interest to. So try to keep it within your interests, but try to open yourself up to different things and be curious. I think that's very important. Try different things and take what you like and leave what you don't like. So be the change you want to see. This one transcends the workplace and really applies anywhere in life. Take that mantle and be the change you would like to see. I'm a big advocate for growth as an artist. Seeing others do well and grow fuels me to further my own craft. So if you have a group of friends, or studying with people, or you're working somewhere and you want to see something there, you kind of need to be the person to do it. Um, Other people might share the same values, but when we see other people, you know, doing good things, I feel like at least for me, I know I typically get inspired and want to do good things as well. Um, so at my job now, I've kind of helped implement um, more kind of internal art training. So every week we have a creative jam on Wednesdays where we do like a little 30-minute warm up all together, taking references and designing from them, and also master studies we all do together too now. Um, and I think if I hadn't pushed for those things, it wouldn't have ever happened. So yeah, it's kind of taught me that you definitely need to push for the things that you want to see. In I think it applies everywhere in life. So keep it fresh. Um, Always open yourself up to trying new things. Using the same approach and drawing the same thing every time will yield the same results. You need to explore to keep building your knowledge and intuition. You can't know what you like and don't like until you try it. So here I don't usually draw this kind of thing. I was like, okay, I'm gonna try doing some like League of Legends Yordles, which aren't that fresh, honestly. It's pretty popular, but yeah, I don't really do that kind of thing, and I got to try it and I learned from it, and I constantly try to do that. Like I have my comfort zone things I like to do, but it's good to get out there and push yourself to uh, find out if you like something or not, because otherwise you're not gonna know. And that applies for genre or technique as well. Um, I personally like to paint and draw most things, but I also push myself to try things like using 3D or trying to photo bash in the process and see how that works for me. And I've learned a lot from all that stuff. I think actually from photo bashing at work, I can paint a lot better nowadays, which is kind of interesting. So know your time, work efficiently. This one is very important to get down, both working professionally and effectively. Start figuring out how long it takes to do each step of the process. Analyze whether you can do it more effectively and how. Learning a structured approach from work is maybe far more productive. I try to never mindlessly doodle or noodling, as it's just a time sink. And this is one before I had a job I had no idea about. I actually never wanted to work in a studio, and I wanted to stay freelance. Um, but I had a friend that had worked in the studio and he was freelancing, and I kind of asked him, like, how did you learn to structure your time? Because somebody could have asked me, oh, how long does it take you to do a set of sketches or like a color rough pass, and I would have had no idea. I was like, oh, it just takes as long as it takes. Um, but he said that he learned it all from having worked in an outsourced studio, and that kind of prompted me to, try and find a job. And once I had, I learned all about the time budgeting and working effectively, because it's kind of paramount in that space, because, especially in outsourcing, because we're being hired by companies, and to keep it profitable, we have to work within a certain amount of time. Because if we take too long, it starts losing us money. And here's an example timeline that I put together. I think when I started, I would have killed to have seen something like this. So you'll have. I wouldn't take this like one for one because it can totally range on the budget the client gives us and the task and what you have to design. But I think a pretty typical and fair time budget for a character like this would be a 5-day budget. So that's 35 hours, and if you're working 7 hours a day, so I would spend like 2 hours on reference gathering and research, 9 hours on the sketches. Color rough would be 7 hours. And color rough I always found that interesting because it really doesn't take that long to add color flats into something. But with that stage, it's like you're also blocking in lighting and texture and just trying to get as far as you can. And then final would be 14 hours. And then yeah, in between each step, you get feedback from the client as well. Except mood board, I think that would probably be internal feedback. Reference, research, having a plan. So a ship without a map of where it's going will surely get lost at sea. We need to have a plan on what we're doing and where we're going. Just like a study needing a question for us to answer, every project needs a brief. You need to know what it is you're trying to visually communicate. So in a workplace, you're often going to get a brief. Sometimes it'll be quite vague, so you kind of need to fill in the gaps yourself. But this also applies kind of everywhere as well. Even with your career, you kind of want to have an idea where you're going, like what the end point looks like. Because otherwise, if you don't know where you're going and you don't have a map, you're gonna, you could go and crash land on any of these little islands here. You gotta have a semblance of an idea on where you're going. Obviously it can change as well. Like I was saying with my kind of career path, I didn't expect to work in a studio, but I did know I wanted to be an artist and a concept artist. So that helped guide me to the destination. So the sandbox, I like to think of the process like a sandbox. Each step of the way, the sandbox that we play and explore within shrinks. So if you don't have a brief, it's like there's unlimited possibilities. It's this wide open space, like anything could be imagined and drawn. When we get a brief, it creates constraints and borders. So all of a sudden we have a space to explore within. And then as we rough gather, kind of theory craft, sketch, and iterate, the borders continually shrink, and we slowly, end up at the destination that, will be our final design. Project brief. So this is an example of a brief that I've set up for a challenge I did with some friends. This is pretty bold, but it has like the structural elements. So it was kind of like a Monster Hunter redesign challenge, and the kind of rules were that you could do any genre you wanted, but you had to pick a biome, like grasslands or swamp, etc. If you're familiar with Monster Hunter, there's hunters that hunt down monsters and then take their resources and build their own armor and weapons. So basically, you had to design the monster, the hunter, and a companion, as well as a weapon and armor. So it started with research. I kind of settled early on that I wanted to do a desert biome, And that was the most important thing to figure out because that's going to dictate every other element within this. I'm just going to close my window because there's some dogs barking outside. Yeah, so the desert biome is going to affect every other element of this project. And then I researched, creatures that live within the desert and their adaptations. So animals have adaptations for their environment. For example, camels have long eyelashes and thin nostrils to avoid getting, it protects them from the sun and also protects them from sand getting in their eyes and nose. They have wide hoofs that help them walk across the sand. The hump, which they store water. They have water retention in there. It's like fat, but it retains water. And I took elements I liked and thought about, okay, my design has to have water retention. Maybe it feasts on shrubs and cactus, since it probably doesn't have much drinking water. Stores water in fatty deposits. I thought about having small eyes to protect its eyes, and started thinking about some attacks that maybe it has. So you always want to start with research, learn from life. Any topic you're doing, try to figure out all that you can about it. And it helps you build context for your design. It makes it more believable. And some of these references really stuck out to me, like the fat tail on this goat. These are really cool. I think you find them mostly in the Middle East, but there's these goats that have these really fatty tails, and that's actually where they store their water-retaining fats. Camels can blow up their tongue, kind of like a balloon, to expose the veins within it to cool them down. Just tons of really cool stuff from life that you can take to apply to your designs. So I got started on sketching here. Cast the net wide, no two iterations the same. I think this is my favorite motto that I've made for myself. There's no point in having subtle iterations in the beginning of any project. My rule of thumb is to give the client one thing that's exactly what I think they want to see, and then from there start exploring more broadly. It's important to leave no stone unturned. And sometimes actually getting confirmation of what the client doesn't want to see can actually just be as useful for honing in on a design. And these were my first sketches for the creature. I think I could have been more broad with these. I kind of had a pretty clear idea what I wanted, but I think I should have probably tried to have changed the body size and proportion a little bit more. But you can see me exploring the idea of like the fatty tail, the small eyes. I was thinking that the neck can expand, and maybe it exposes the veins within it to help cool it down. Here's what the color flats looked like. I chose a few designs. And then as I was going, something felt really off to me. I really liked that tail, but then it just was too similar. Like it almost is like a figure eight type of thing. And I had to look back and think about the principles, and it was just too halved, too 50-50. So I ended up here, and this felt a lot better to me. I still got the tail. It's just not, having the design, which makes it work better. So my process, usually I'll do line art and then put in flats. You can see me putting the flats here. I just clipping mask underneath and play with the color composition. I block in the light direction, and I like to think of it just in two values to keep it very bold. It just simplifies it quite a lot to do it that way. Then I start subdividing forms, and it's otherwise known as like rendering. So I keep those two sides of the lighting very distinct, shadow and light, and then it's just playing with values within those sections. The rendering continued. I like to keep my process pretty like alive, so things can change throughout. Um, some people they like to do a super clear line art and nothing changes throughout the rendering process, but um, and that works for them. But I like to be open to changes, and it's kind of fun that way too. Like it keeps it more engaging. You can, because for me, whenever I add lighting to something, you see it in a new, well, like a new light, literally. But yeah, you start to realize, okay, this doesn't work. This does work. Um, so yeah, kind of living process keeps the process fun and interesting. And then, final adjustments here, just bumping up the lighting and some adjustment layers. So, visual read is very important. So, first read, when we see something, is like the silhouette, the overall shape. Second read are the big shapes within the design. And then third read would be the details within the design. Things that we don't really see on first glance, but looking at a design, we can appreciate them. Um, so the viewpoint of a game will dictate the focus. So in first-person games, you're gonna see a lot more of that third read detail. Like the tattoos in the hand, and one thing that's very interesting about first-person games is the weapons are considered a gun or considered a character in themselves. Because you're not really seeing your character in these games, you're seeing the gun. And yeah, third person games, you're gonna be seeing more of that first and second read. One thing I find really interesting about this leather armor in Dark Souls is the back is so detailed, and there's so much interest there. And I think the reason for that is that the game is, you're seeing the backside of your character the whole game, and it kind of makes sense that they would want that backside to be interesting. So top-down games, you're not really gonna see the feet, so you're not gonna want to spend your time trying to, you know, make the feet super interesting and interesting boots or whatever. The main focus is gonna be on the silhouette and the shoulders and head, and the silhouette is very, very important because, especially in strategy games like Dota or League of Legends, because you want to know who it is right away and what they can do. There's a really great, I think, Dota design article. I think it's on the Steam support page or something. But I definitely look that up because it's very interesting. So visual language, we are communicating visually, and everything that we add to a concept says something. We need to make sure that we're clear, concise, and avoid sending mixed messages. So, for example, we have this little guy. He's a blank canvas, so to speak. But what happens when we add a hat to him? We start to get a sense of who he could be and the reason for the hat being there. So, add a hat. Is he a cowboy? The hat tells us that he needs to keep the sun out of his eyes. Maybe it also helps keep him cool. And it kind of tells me personally that maybe he's out on the road quite often. When you add a star, and all of a sudden he's a sheriff. And that's because the star is very iconic. I think everybody probably, gets the same sense from that. Yeah, just adding something so simple can say a lot. But what happens now? He starts to get a little bit of a mixed message because the bandana, it kind of tells us that maybe he's trying to hide his identity, and that's kind of more in line with maybe a criminal. And that kind of contrasts with the star. The hat could go either way, but I think the hiding the identity but also having a sheriff's badge is a little confusing. And the point I'm trying to make is that like everything you have within a design should be supporting the what the design is meant to be. Like, is he meant to be an honorable sheriff? Um, or is he meant to be like a criminal robber type of guy? And there could be arguments that maybe sometimes the sheriff does put a bandana over his face for protecting him from dust storms or whatever else. But I think in that case we would need more elements supporting the idea that he is a sheriff, just to keep it clear. So getting pretty close to the end here. A concept art job can be great, but a job is a job. It is rare that you will find a gig that checks every box. A lot of folks will lose the drive and passion to create over the years because they put getting an industry job on a pedestal. And one thing you hear a lot is like, oh, I'll be happy once I get an art job. Or a lot of people put one studio on a pedestal and be like, oh, I want to work at Riot Games as like a splash artist. And it's kind of dangerous to do that. Like, you can. I think it's especially dangerous to put like one studio or place to work at on a pedestal because, you know, I've seen people that put their whole like life on trying to get a job at Riot Games, and then they do, and then they get laid off or something, and they're just totally broken because they put it on such a high pedestal. I think you should, it could be great working anywhere. Like if I think an indie job or working in a small studio is probably, I feel like that'd be really great. But a lot of people will overlook it because they want the big name. Um, but yeah, personal projects are where I find the most enjoyment and fulfillment. It's a place that I can do whatever I want and work on whatever I want. And I can't stress enough how important it is to work on your own projects and continue cultivating your love for art. Um, a lot of people like they get the job and then they're like, okay, I got the job now. I'm just gonna you know do whatever, and that's fine. Like it just depends on your priorities. But I think some people they kind of lose their passion, and it's kind of sad to see when they were so passionate about creating things and um, had all these interesting worlds in their head. But maybe my message is just don't lose your love to create. And yeah, want to thank you for coming to the talk. Um, I put out this tutorial thing a couple weeks ago, and I put a little discount code if anyone wants it. It's 50% off, just for you guys. But yeah, it's my little thank you for coming. If anybody has any questions, I'm more than happy to answer. If there are any. Thanks.
Bravo, bravo. Bueno, vamos a comenzar ahora sí con las preguntas. Let's start with the questions. Who wants to begin?
I'll just sketch
¿Tienes
here as well.
alguna
Well, if there's any questions that come
pregunta?
in.
Well, I think I will ask a question. I
Okay.
think you explain everything very well, so anyone has any question. But I want to ask you, why do
Mhm.
you think you have getting better job positions in the company that you are working? What do you think that it sets you apart from other artists? Like, do you think it's like more responsibility,
Um,
experience, time management, understanding what the client wants, or what do you think is like the main thing that they look in you?
oh,
Uh,
I think it comes down to that idea of where is it? Taking the mantle that I talked about. Um,
yeah,
yeah, be the change you want to see. So I'm very uh, big advocate for growth as an artist and pushing to do quality work. And I try to push my coworkers to do better work as well. Um, it's been kind of interesting that I started at Adam Hawk as a junior, and it's been 5 years. I've worked my way up to a lead now, and I never really wanted to be a lead. Actually, I just wanted to make good art and make things I'm proud of. But it's kind of naturally, I guess it's naturally happened. Um,
Yeah.
and I only just got promoted to a lead, but I've had the responsibilities of a lead for about like half a year or a year now. Um,
And
because I just
have you seen like someone
Mhm.
that is like stuck in the same position? Like it stays like
Yeah, you
not.
you do see it from time to time. I think it really comes down to people losing that passion to create. Um,
Hmm.
because for me, when I was on a project that I didn't like, which it happens from time to time, you'll get a project where you're like, oh man, this stinks, and you'll be stuck on it
Yeah.
for a couple
I
weeks or whatever. But I'd always be doing personal work and trying to like prove um, to my bosses and whatnot that like oh, I can do this other stuff too, and
Yeah.
it usually worked out, and I got the opportunities to work on things and prove myself. But other people kind of, I think they can get stuck and um, a little, uh, yeah, just a little stuck, and I guess they just don't have the energy to push harder. But you kind of do need to put in a little bit of extra effort to keep growing.
and why do you think they don't have like this energy
Uh,
to push harder?
I think it's hard to say. It could be anything, right? Like it could be.
Like they
Uh,
don't sleep or something like
Yeah,
that?
it could be. You never know. Like it could be something in their life that's getting in the way, which is, we all have our own lives with difficulties and everything. It could be something there, or it could be lack of motivation, or even something like um, just the projects they're on they just don't like. And but yeah, you kind of need to put that little extra push in and keep your passion there, because if you don't, like when you see work that somebody does and you can tell that they're excited and having
Yeah.
fun, like you're gonna feel that excitement and have fun looking at it. And I think that's what helps you. I think that's what helps you rise up in a company, is when when you have that passion and love for the craft, and you're not only trying to push yourself, but you're trying to grow everybody around you as well. That's something I'm very passionate about, is you know trying to help my coworkers raise their skill levels as well. Um, so I'll do that quite often. Like I'll give video feedback on projects, and um, yeah, just try to keep raising everybody up as much as I can to help others, and it helps me learn as well. Like anytime you're helping others, you're also helping yourself, because you're learning how to communicate. You're
Yeah.
reinforcing ideas and principles that you've learned. So yeah.
Okay. I have another question.
Mhm.
And what do you think are the specific exercises that you recommend for 2D artists uh,
For
that
two
they are aiming like to make have their skills and boost like their employability in the industry? What do you think is like the best exercises they can
uh,
practice?
Okay, so for 2D artists,
Yeah, if you can say like one or two, like which do you think is the best?
yeah, so for a character concept artist, definitely figure drawing and costume figure drawing is super important. But I mean that's pretty generic. So one thing I'll say that will like help you improve a ton is doing figure rotation. So that's where, and I'll just demonstrate this quickly. So you have a figure reference, and just say it's somebody, I don't know, they're standing, and you take that reference and you actually just rotate it in your head. Um, so you only have this front reference of the person standing, but then you imagine it in a different perspective. So this person's front on, but let's try to think of it from a kind of three-quarter side view and kind of draw it in like a boxy format, it's it's pretty difficult, and it'll make like steam blow out your ears because it's very it really gets your
Mhm.
brain actively working. But that's like a good thing, right? Like you should be
Mhm.
when you're trying to learn, you should be exhausted at the end of the day. Like it should be intensive mentally. So yeah, just doing lots of figure rotations is gonna help you like draw anything from any angle.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, that's a big one. And then that's more on like the foundational side. And for working as a conspiracy, you also need to work on the idea side and design side, and that's often overlooked. So doing things like um, let me show you. So I made this little program a while ago just for fun to learn how to code, and you can you'll randomly get three images out of it. So something that's a great exercise to do is take a couple pictures and try to design something from those pictures. Just spend 30 or 40 minutes. So I could take these and um, you know actually do this at work every Wednesday. I'll grab three reference pictures and uh, we'll all design something for 30 minutes from it. And this is where you can do that thing where I was saying like, okay, maybe this is 60% of my design. This could be 30%, and maybe it's 10% of this guy. And you can flip those around to create brand new designs. But yeah, doing this kind of thing is, I think, very, very good for improving your design sense. But yeah, is there any other? Oh, I see there's a question in the chat.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so yeah, I mean, a lot of these kind of like 80s fantasy films have like a similar feel. Hmm. I think one thing this actually shares a lot with like FromSoft games. I feel like there's this common theme of decay and like a once great. So pretty much every FromSoft game has like a once great kingdom that is now um, decaying, and I kind of get that feeling from these. Um, it's kind of one of those things that I would search for words and see how you feel about them and see what they represent the most to you. And 'cause yeah, what I get from these could be different from what you get. Um, but I feel like it is very much like, okay, this place is decaying. Um, there were people here at one point, but now it's kind of desolate. And yeah, that's kind of what I get from those. Um, what advice from a mood board? Oh yeah, so that's actually one that I run into a lot. Is putting too much on a mood board. I think it's important to try and use as little references as you can. So, um, for example, in the presentation, I talked about the rule of three, and for any given thing, I would try to keep it to three key references. So those will kind of dictate the design in like the most important parts of what you're trying to do, and from there, um, when you're actually painting and getting into specifics, you can have references for drawing and you know material and whatnot, but I'd keep like your three main references in its own place. Um, the nice thing about that too is that you can, um, it gives you more room to inject more yourself into your design as well. Because yeah, I have that happen all the time where I get too much references, I get too excited, and like in the end, technically I can make a a ton of designs from the image board. It doesn't it doesn't follow this principle well enough, which each step we want to be closing uh, the borders tighter and tighter as opposed to expanding them, because we're never going to get anywhere that way. I hope that answers that. If you have any, if it doesn't, just let me know. Um, what books do you recommend for studying color theory and drawing? Um, so the James Gurney book is really good. Um, uh, books. A lot of it I got from like schoolism actually. Like the, I mean, there was some pretty good schoolism stuff I read. I think also where is it? There's a plein air book. Uh, where is it? I got it on my wall somewhere here. Yeah. Um, I don't know if my webcam is still showing, but this Alla Prima is really good by Richard Schmid. Um, I think there's like I think there's online versions you could find too, but that's a pretty good one for like a very traditional approach. But that one helped me a lot. Um, yeah, I'm not sure where else I've learned it from. Color theory is interesting though because it's definitely on the lower end of like foundational priorities. Um, there's a lot of wiggle room within color theory. Um, things like drawing and value uh, kind of have higher priority, and then if you have those down, you can kind of do whatever you want with color for the most part. But yeah, any other questions or read how to draw books? Oh, um, yeah, I've read a little bit of how to draw. It's like a little too technical for me though. Like it kind of hurts my brain a bit too much. I don't think it's necessary unless you're trying to do like super technical drawing. Um,
Do
yeah,
you think it works like for props or something like that?
yeah. For
Like,
things like props and whatnot, yeah, I can see it being useful. Um, but even then, like when you're working in games, you don't really need to. If you're working in like industrial design, sure, like you need to be very accurate. But I feel like in games, it's more about the idea and clarity. Um, also, how do you maintain consistency in the day? Um, so for me, I work, I think it's 7.5 hours a day at my job, and then uh, I spend about like 3 or 4 hours after work on my own stuff. Maybe more 2 to 3 hours these days, but it totally depends on your schedule and what your life looks like right now. But I feel like at one point I would have said that you should do like 8 hours a day no matter what. But I'd say like depending where you're at, like you should be drawing every single day no matter what. Um, I feel like a good amount of time if you don't have anything else going on is 4 hours. And if you do, if you have like a part-time job or a job, like um, I think 1 to 2 hours is a good goal to hit. Um, but I mean, anything is good. Like you just want to make sure you're drawing every day, at least like 30 minutes a day is important. Uh, oh, drawing on the right side of the brain. I've heard really good things about that. I've uh, I've read a little bit of it. Um, let me find. Oh, so you mean you feel like you have better observational drawing than you do imaginative drawing, or? Because that's pretty common if that is the case. Best way to simplify a drawing. Um, that's actually one that I've struggled with too. I think you have to accept the way you draw in a way. Like you can always get better, but for example, for me, like I've noticed like my hand just naturally kind of shakes as I draw, and like it really doesn't matter to have like perfect lines. Like it just doesn't matter. It takes too much time. I mean, perfect anything takes too much time. Um, it's more important to just be clear, have clarity to what you're doing, and as a designer, it's not really about having perfect drawings anyway. It's about selling an idea, and I think we all want to be creative and keep selling ideas. So yeah, I think I forget his name, Jake something on YouTube. He has this motto he kind of says. It's like or finished, not perfect. And I think it's a really good one to repeat in your head. It's like, okay, um, it doesn't have to be perfect. It's just I just need to get it finished. And yeah, as long as it says what you want it to say, that's really all that matters. Um, Let me see. I've been working a lot looser lately, just because I'm trying to put that into practice more. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if that helps. I think it's really like most like an internal thing where you have to think like, okay, like what's important to me? Is it like just having these lines like perfectly drawn? Like, is it really that important, or um, is it the idea that matters more? I think in most cases, like it doesn't matter how you draw, like how loose it is or how messy. It's kind of important, like what the message is that you're trying to say with that. Like a lot of art these days, I like is actually the line art is usually pretty imperfect. It's pretty messy. Not like messy, but there's not tons like size jitter and like size difference. It's just clear. But yeah. What website do you use for gesture drawing? Um, well, if you don't like coffee shops, you can go to like a park or I mean anywhere that you're out and about can be good. Um, I think if you just look up gesture drawing, you'll find websites, but um, Pinterest can be good. You can collect stuff online. Um, yeah, I think like gesturedrawing.com or something like that. You could find stuff. Michael Hampton's very good. So I learned figure drawing through. I started with Loomis first, and then um, I went to Bridgman, and then I went to Hampton. I think Hampton mixes Bridgman and Loomis pretty well. I've heard the Forest book is really good as well, but you're too mad with Pinterest. You gotta work on your algorithm because yeah, you just gotta like search different things and make new boards because yeah, Pinterest will base your references off of like what you look at, and yeah, you kind of just gotta search different things and find cool stuff that way. Yeah. Also, I'm ignore what I'm drawing. I'm just like doodling as I'm thinking while replying. But actually, I'll open up something that I can like paint on, 'cause that's easier than sketching. This is a concept I've been working on. Um, This is kind of boring.
Well,
Yeah, I'd stick with Hampton then. Hampton's really good. I think you have to break away from the boxiness at some point because it can get too stiff at a certain point. But yeah. Um, yeah, I could probably take like a couple more questions and I gotta get back to work. But yeah, so if there are any more questions, um, oh, the mic quality sounds nice. That's good. It's let me see what kind is it. I think it's like HyperX or something. Um, yeah, it's Hyper something. I know for sure. Oh, thanks for the design. It's part of my little so I'm always working on little personal projects, and this one's kind of like Gothic Victorian based. It's kind of like a love letter to the stuff I enjoy, like Frankenstein and Bloodborne, Van Helsing, all those kind of Gothic Victorian movies. Um, but yeah, I really like that kind of stuff. Like some people say you should like do stuff that's like super unique, but um, I think that you should just draw the stuff that you enjoy. Like it's fine to treat stuff like a love letter to the media you enjoy. And that's no better represented than in FromSoft games because if you compare Dark Souls to like Berserk, they take so much from Berserk. It's kind of crazy. Like there's almost designs that are one for one. Um, and it's because like I think the game director of like Dark Souls and Elden Ring, he loves Berserk and he's not afraid to show it, which is really cool. For life drawing, uh, I haven't gone to that much in-person life drawing because I don't really live in the city, but like whenever I'm out, when I'm on the train or I'm on the bus, I will be drawing. I'll be drawing people, and then yeah, like just using pictures on the internet and whatnot. Yeah, I think I could take one more question and then I gotta go. Um, book for shadow and light. Um, hmm. Trying to think of a book. I mean, the James Gertie Color and Light book is really good. Um, hmm. I'm not sure what others that directly cover light. Um, I think what I would do with lighting though is just try to keep it. Yeah, that's my favorite thing about James Gertie is it's so much like a magazine. Like, it's a very good like bathroom book. Like you put it in the bathroom whenever you have to go. You just pick it up and read an article, and you can just learn that way. It's yeah, I love that it's like very quick magazine like. Um, yeah, it's cool. Yeah, all the dinosaurs are great too. Cool. All right, I guess
Well, yeah,
we can call it
let's
there.
close. Let's
Yeah,
close the conference.
cool. Yeah,
We
thanks so much for coming, everybody. I really appreciate it. And um, yeah, if you have any like more questions or anything, just totally feel free to ask me. Um, I'll put that code for you guys in that tutorial thing if you are interested. If you'd like to get that, it's only like $2 with the code, but um, yep, yeah, really appreciate it. It's just like my first presentation, so yeah, really appreciate you guys all coming.
thank you very much,
Cool.
Russell. Y un aplauso
Thanks.
para Russell. Hasta favor.
Thanks everybody. The air horn. Oh my god. Cool. Yeah. Thanks everybody.
Pues bueno, quiero agradecerles a todos por estar aquí. Muy buena plática de Russell. Creo que hay muchos puntos que son muy importantes a tomar en cuenta sobre esta plática. Y pues quiero animarlos a que sigan avanzando, sigan creciendo, sigan practicando, siempre paso a paso. Realmente al final la dedicación y la perseverancia es lo único que los va a llevar a poder alcanzar objetivos grandes y cosas que realmente sean importantes. Acuérdense mucho de esta frase que dice que de pequeñas bellotas pues crecen grandes robles, y así es como debemos hacer poco a poco, ir creciendo hasta tener un nivel muy alto. I also very special thanks to you, Russell, for joining us,
Yeah, thanks
for
so much for
sharing your
having me.
time. Like it was an incredible presentation, was really really great. You have a lot of experience. You gave us like a very comprehensible workflow for a concept artist. I think is one of the most comprehensible workflows I have seen. Like all these briefs, the idea of briefs, the three number. How it was called? The three number,
Yeah, the magic
three
number
magic number.
3. Yeah.
The magic number 3 was really great. I really liked the sheriff doodle, the drawing. Like it was very interesting to see how the small changes can convey like very very different messages,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you and also you can give like two messages at the same time that are not the same. So it's kind of like a bad design, right? Because
Yeah, yeah.
you're saying yes and no at the same time, or something like
Yeah,
that.
totally. Yeah, you always want to be it's like talking. You want to be clear with what you're trying to say to somebody, otherwise you're
Uh-huh.
gonna confuse everybody.
Yeah, it was really great. I have never seen something like that. It was super simple and super effective.
Cool. Yeah, I'm glad.
Thank you very much. Un anuncio para los demás. Actualmente, pues, no tenemos conferencias programadas, pero vamos a seguir organizando más, vamos a seguir trayendo más artistas de diferentes empresas, de diferentes países, de diferentes áreas, estilos. Así que sigan ahí atentos al canal de actividades para más información, porque seguramente van a encontrar algunas que les llamen la atención. Y pues bueno, eso es todo. Muchas gracias a todos por venir. Esperamos verlos en la próxima conferencia y hasta luego. Nos vemos pronto. See you later, Russell. Thank you very
Yep.
much.
I'm gonna post the slide deck in
Yeah.
the channel. If anybody wants to review it, you can go ahead and see it there. But yeah, take care guys. I'll catch you later. Bye bye.
Goodbye. See you.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks.